How are you doing? My name is Olivia and this is my YouTube channel Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Today is Friday, February 16th, 2024. So I'm going to start off the video today by letting all my quilty friends know that there is no quilting in today's video, and I do apologize for that. It's just been an incredibly busy couple of weeks for me. I have had zero time to do anything quilty related. I do have my quilt machine back, and I'll talk about that here in a second, but the more I tried to find time to do quilting, it just seemed something just came up to cancel the plans out, or what I was doing took far longer than it should have, and just I felt like I was a chicken with my head cut off running around sometimes. Last week was full of a crazy, ridiculous amount of appointments. This week hasn't really been any better. Just, working on my Etsy shop mainly. And that kind of comes first before anything else, because that's, a source of revenue. So yeah, it's just been incredibly busy. I do apologize. I hope you'll still consider sticking around. I do plan on having quilting to show in my next video, because I did get my quilt machine back. And so I hope to have some quilty goodies to show next time. So I hope you'll still, hang out with me for a little while. But I do apologize if I'm disappointed. I know sometimes when I don't have quilting, I usually will get a few comments, voicing their displeasure. But honestly, I just didn't have time. And I wasn't going to try to, crank out something really, really quickly, because whenever I do that, there's always 100 mistakes I make, which just creates a very frustrating situation. So I do hope next time to have quilting to show and share. It should be a quieter 2 weeks. So yeah, definitely fingers crossed, because I do miss it. I like when I can sit down and work on quilting. It's very relaxing. So the fact that I haven't been able to do it, it definitely makes me twitchy. Okay, so last video I shared a little bit of a life update, and I'm going to do so now. I'll try to do it really quick so that way we can get to the stitching part of today's video. I'm trying to squeeze today's video in late morning. I have to leave after lunch to go pick up my son from school to take him to the dentist. So I'm trying to sort of squeeze this in today. But last video I shared about my aunt. My aunt and uncle have both been kind of in poor health for the last couple of years. And we had just found out that my aunt was going to need to have open heart surgery. So she had an aortic valve that she must have been born without her knowing it. She was born with some sort of condition that I don't know if she started off with a weak one or if it weakened as the years went on, but she was going to need to get that replaced. So they had scheduled her surgery for March. From what I understand, it was supposed to be after my uncle's hip replacement surgery, so that way he could come home, have like a week or two to, begin recuperation, and then she was going to go in and have her surgery. Well, the Friday that I did my video, or recorded it, my uncle rushed her to the emergency room. She was having chest pains, and come to find out she was going to need to get a double bypass. And so I'm not sure how they didn't catch that when they were looking at the aortic valve. I do not know how any of that stuff works, but basically her open heart surgery was moved up, and she spent some time in ICU. before her surgery. So last Tuesday she went in. They did the open heart surgery, replaced the aortic valve, and she only got one bypass. The other one, they were able to go in and clean it out. And her heart is good to go. She spent a little over a week in the hospital recouping, and then on Monday they sent her home. And then last night we received word, or no, the night before last, we received word that she had been taken by ambulance back to the hospital. She was dehydrated, and then later on that day we discovered that she had been taking too much of her blood pressure medication. So I don't know if that was just on accident or if it was, the prescription was written wrong, but she was taking too much. And so she is in the hospital. That she's supposed to be able to go home. She might even be going home today, possibly tomorrow. But her heart is good. Everything is great. It was just dehydration and then the little mix up with her medication. So definitely hoping that from here on out, everything will be good. So that is an update on her. Thank you so much for all of your prayers. I know she doesn't know it. She doesn't know that so many of you guys were, praying for her. But I do know that when she finds out, she will be very much appreciative. And she's got a long road of recovery ahead of her. My uncle's still scheduled to get his hip replacement. And I think they have they have family that lives up there. And then they also have a really close church group that's been, bringing them food. And I believe has been helping out. So hopefully from here on out, road to recovery for her. My grandma. So last Monday, my grandma called me and she had gotten a phone call from her dermatologist. She had a spot on her neck that they biopsied, came back, and it was positive for skin cancer. So on Wednesday, I took her into their big clinic, their surgical clinic, and they were able to remove the skin cancer. They got it all in one go. So they stitched her up and she should be good to go. She also had got all of her blood work back from her doctor, and they told her for being 86 years old, her blood work was impeccable. So that was very good news. And then my quilt machine. So my quilt machine, I was in the middle of quilting and it just pooped out on me. I took it into the repair shop last Thursday, and so like my grandma's appointment, so I ended up being down in the same area 3 times, just back to back to back. It was just crazy. I took my grandma to her eye doctor, then her dermatologist, and then the repair shop, and they're all within the same block. So I took my machine in, dropped it off, and they were supposed to call me, let me know what was wrong with it, and let me know how much it would cost. And they didn't. They just went ahead and repaired it and did a cleaning. So the bill ended up being quite expensive. Basically, there will be no new dishwasher for a while. But it ended up being a power, they call it a P-pod. Basically, my quilt machine looks like it's got some hips on it. And this side of the machine is the power pod, and it totally went out. If my machine was a couple of years older, they could have just taken that off and replaced the fuses, but my fuses, I guess, are encased. And so the whole part has to be completely replaced. They had a used one, so that's what they put on there because a new one is really expensive. But if they would have called me, I would have told them just to put the part on, and I will bring the machine in the summer for a cleaning, because just to get my quilt machine serviced is like $300. So I told them to call me. They didn't. So now I had this humongous bill. So I definitely was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but it is fixed. I have not had a chance to go out and work with it yet. I brought it home on Tuesday, and it's just kind of been, hanging out, mocking me, much like the mocking basket of whips does. But I hope maybe this weekend I can steal a little bit of time to play with it a little bit, make sure everything's okay. I'm hoping that I don't have to do any more repairs to it for a very long time. I replaced the motor like 2 years ago, so I definitely just want it to work for a little while, no problems, so I can, repay the coffers, so to speak. But definitely no new dishwasher for a little while. And I felt awful. I still feel terrible that, I realize it's nothing I could control, but I still feel terrible that we had to like shell out, some money unexpectedly. And I wish they would have called me. I don't know why they didn't. But anyway, it's home. Hopefully it'll work. I'll have no problems with it. Do want to thank all of you guys for all of the wonderful and uplifting messages that you left me, either in the comment section or the emails or on Instagram. Thank you so very much. It was very greatly appreciated. I know that you guys are anxious for me to get to the stitching part, but I, just thank you so very much. And I do greatly appreciate it. I love reading your comments. So, thank you for leaving those for me. So over the past 2 weeks, I did work on a variety of projects. Last night, I started back on Casting a Spell by Blackbird Designs. So I'm stitching this with my friend Yvette, and the block that we worked on is this one here. It is block 9. And once this one is complete, we will just have 2 more to go. And here is my progress. So right down there is where I worked last night. I think I worked on this for about an hour, because prior to that I had been working on And Heaven and Nature Sing, and I finished the assignment on that one, so I picked this one up and worked on it. It actually went pretty quick, but I've heard that once you hit the house it's a little bit of a slowdown. So tonight I will be working on this one, and then hopefully I can get this block finished in the next day or two. So I am working on Casting a Spell on a piece of 30 count gray by Weeks Dye Works, and I am using the called for threads, and I'm stitching it 2 over 2. I hope I said 30 count. 30 count Confederate. So it's 30 count Confederate gray, but they call it gray now. The next project I worked on is The Shores of Hawr Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. So I'm stitching this with a group of friends, and each block is broken up into 4 segments, so it takes 4 months to complete one block. Although I think as we go along, some of the blocks will be given more or less time, just kind of depending on how much stitching is involved. But on Friday nights, I will stitch on a Hawr Hollow with a group of friends. We have a Zoom meeting, and it's just so much fun. So here is my progress. So I was able to finish the first block, and absolutely love it. Love the linen, love the colors on the linen, just so fun. And I think that sun up in the corner is just the cutest. So I'm stitching The Shores of Hawr Hollow on a piece of 40 count Ale by Picture This Plus, and I'm using the DMC threads, that the DMC conversion that is listed on the chart, and I'm stitching it 1 over 2. I love it. So cute. So much fun. And what's funny is this is a project that I didn't think that I would ever work on, and now that I'm working on it, I just absolutely love it. It's just so pretty. So much fun. And it's so fun that I get to do it with a group of friends. The next project I worked on was The Houses of Hawr Hollow by Carriage House Samplings. We have been working on block number 4, which is up here in the corner. So this is also one that gets broken up into 4 segments. And I think we've had 2 months. So we have 2 more months to go, and then we will have block 4 complete. But here is my progress. So on the 4th block, I had to do quite a bit of color changes. The called for DMC was, I wanted mine to look like a little bit more like the one that's in the photo. So I had to do quite a bit of thread swapping out to make that happen, but I think the house looks fantastic. I really, really love working on this one. So in March, it'll be more of the house fill-in. So I love it. So I'm stitching The Houses of Hawr Hollow on a piece of 40 count Heritage by Picture This Plus, and I am using the I'm using a variety of DMC, some that are called for and some that are not. And these Hawr Hollows are usually done in NPI silks. and then they will provide a DMC conversion. So that's usually what I work from, and then I change out as needed. But love it. It's so pretty. Cannot wait to get it finished. And then to finally have a row complete. My next project was Elizabeth Furniss 1836 by Hands Across the Sea Sampler. So I've been working on this one with a group of friends. We started in October of 22, and it's almost done, almost. It was tempting. If February hadn't been such a short month, I would have been tempted to finish this one, but because I do have a group of assignments that I have to get done by the end of the month, I didn't know if I would have enough time to complete this sampler and then work on those two. So I decided to be good and work on Elizabeth. So here is my progress. Now, so I ended up working ahead, and I was not supposed to work on the house at all this month, but I could not resist. So I just did a little bit of stitching on the second floor, but I mainly focused on the personalization of my great-grandparents' names. It was not easy. So when I chart out, when I plan to, swap out a name or, swap out verses or what have you, the way I do it is so antiquated. And I basically use my kids when they were in, when they were both freshmen and sophomore in high school, I used to have to buy them graph journals. And so I have a couple of those, and that's what I use. And I have to tape pages together because, they're not small, but I have to tape pages together. And because I have to do it over one, that's why I need it to be bigger, because if I use a printed cross-stitch graph, I have a really hard time seeing where I've marked it. So I need it to be a little bit bigger. So I use that, which creates a big giant page that I have to manipulate so that I can see where I'm stitching. It's a thing. So it took me a little bit to chart out their name and then to stitch it. I love it. I think it turned out fabulously. Although the next time that I stitch anything over 1 on 40 count, I am going to see if I maybe have some silks in my stash that I can use instead, because the DMC kept shredding. And I even, put wax on it, and it just kept shredding. So I think next time I'm going to use some silks. But I love it. I think it turned out really, really good. My great-grandfather's name is humongous, and my great-grandmother's is very short, but I loved working on it. So I put their full name, my great-grandma's maiden name, and I put both their date of birth and date of death. So I love it. And of course, the 1914 in the middle is when they got married. So I love it. So pretty. So in March, I am going to complete Elizabeth. So I will have this done by the end of the month. My original goal was to have this done by the end of winter, and technically all the way up until the spring equinox solstice. I can't remember what it's called. It is still winter, so I will have this done by the end of winter, and I am super excited. I cannot wait. Before I forget, I am stitching Elizabeth Furniss on a piece of 40 count bee's knees by Sarapin Fabrics, and I am using the DMC conversion that is listed in the chart, and I'm stitching it 1/2. And I think that Hands Across the Sea Samplers does an amazing job of matching the DMC to the called for silks. It's just, they do the best job. And I'm so grateful that they provide that conversion, because there's no way I would be able to afford the silks. My next project comes out of the book Hello Autumn by Teresa Kogut, and I am working on Folksy Thomas. So this is a project that I'm working on with a group of friends, and here is my progress. So this month I finished I'm going to call it a pedestal. So I think I had part of it done in my last video, so I completed it. Then I stitched the base, the pumpkin, and the vine that you see to the one side. So when I pick this up again, I'll probably work down in the one corner and then work my way up. So I love working on this one. It's so much fun. So I'm stitching Folksy Thomas on a piece of 36 count parchment, and I am using the called for threads. I'm stitching at 1/2. So pretty. I love it. This one is always a hard one to put down, but it's definitely a joy to work on. Love it, love it. I did do a little bit of fully finishing over the past 2 weeks. Actually, I did it on Sunday. The first one that I finished is this adorable little small that my friend Jamie stitched for me for my birthday and Christmas. And I did show it in my last video. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to put it in a frame or finish it into a little pillow small. I decided to go with the small because I thought, you know, my trench bowl could use some more wintry smalls in it. And I do leave winter up through February, and then I usually will change it out the beginning of March. So I wanted to be able to enjoy this for a couple of weeks before it got put away. I love it. I think it's so cute. So this is called A Mount Vernon Christmas by Plum Street Sampler. I don't know what she stitched it on. She told me that she stitched it from a kit. So when it came, it had the stitched piece and the backing fabric and the rickrack. So what I decided to do once I got it into the pillow small, I attached the rickrack, and then I used some rustic beads that I had in my stash to stitch it down. And I love how it looks. It took a really long time. So I had the rickrack on, and then the Super Bowl started. So I took it out. I brought it onto this room because I wasn't going to miss the Chiefs playing in the Super Bowl. And I started putting the beads on it. I watched the first quarter. We left in the second quarter because it was my son Ethan's 18th birthday. So we left in the second quarter to go get dinner. We came home at the beginning of the third quarter. So that tells you how long the Super Bowl goes on. And then, so I watched the third, the fourth quarter, and then the overtime. And by the time overtime started, I had this totally finished. So it was a fun project. Definitely kept my hands busy while I watched the game. But I'm so happy that they won. And then what I did when I had all the rickrack on, I took the little piece of leftover rickrack and I attached it to a safety pin, and I put 2 of my grandma's vintage buttons on there to kind of finish it off, and attached it. I love it. I think it looks so great. I love it. Love it, love it. My next finish comes out of the book Ooh La La by Blackbird Designs, and it is called The Last Rose of Summer. And I stitched this last year. I remember when the book came and I was flipping through this book, this piece immediately caught my eye and I fell madly in love with it. And luckily 123 Stitch had not only the called for linen, which was a 36 count gingerbread, but they had all of the threads too. So when it came, I started it. It was such a joy to work on. And once I completely finished it, I was able to find the paper mache book box at Hobby Lobby. And then it sat and it waited and it waited and it waited. And I really just wanted to get it done, but I had to work up the gumption to do it, because anytime, you know, I'm working with mat board that I have to cut out in a shape, it always makes me a little nervous. But I finished it and I love it. I think it turned out so wonderfully. I'm very, very happy with it. And now I get to leave it out. It'll probably be out year round because it's such a beautiful piece. I love it. So the book box, so in the supplies list, it has you get a book box. It's a paper mache book box from Hobby Lobby. Make sure when you go that you know the SKU number, because there's a couple of different sizes, and if you don't get the right one, it's too small or it's too big. So you definitely want to make sure that you write that item number. They do have it. I had to wait. I think I went to Hobby Lobby a couple of different times, and then they finally had it in stock. But I remember I went to Hobby Lobby, didn't have the item number, so I had to wait till I went back so that I could get the box. So I've had the box since before Christmas. All I had to do was paint it and then put the piece on, but I had to kind of work up the gumption to do it. So I followed the directions. It has you cut out a piece of mat board. I had a couple people ask me how I cut my mat board. For something like this, I use a very heavy duty pair of scissors, and I go very slow so that way it, you have that nice smooth all the way around. So once I had the mat board cut out, then I attached 2 pieces of batting and then attached my piece. I love it. I think it looks so good. So I'm very, very pleased to have this done. So the box is painted inside and out. So the directions have you paint it. I think it's in Espresso by American Folk Art. You paint it, sand it, and then you're supposed to use brie wax. I don't have any, so I used my antiquing wax, which is basically the same thing. It's just a cheaper version. I used that. I think it looks great. It looks exactly like the photo. So, but that is what I did. And then I used Aleene's tacky glue, which the directions have you do. So once you get your piece attached to the mat board, you glue the rickrack on, and then you glue the piece onto the box. So it went very quickly once I got to that part, but I love it. I'm so glad that I finally have it done, and I really enjoyed having it out for display the last couple of days. It just makes me smile every time I look at it. So lots of fun. Okay, so I have 2 last things to talk about. The first one is a little bit of happy mail that I received. So June, she contacted me and said she had some patterns and charts that she wanted to pass along to me to use in future giveaways. Although she did tell me that I can keep one of them, so I will be doing that. She sent me by Scattered Seed Samplers, Remember Me. This is so beautiful. I love anything Scattered Seed Samplers. It's definitely right up my wheelhouse. She sent me a quilt pattern by American Jane called Merry-Go-Round Quilt. Very pretty. And a quilt pattern called Night's Bouquet by Night's Quilt Shop. So that is a beautiful sampler. Very cool. And then this is the one that she said I could keep. It's a Red Cottage by Plum Street. And I do really love this. I mean, not only does it have one beautiful red house, but it also has 2. So this is definitely going to be in some future stitching plans. So thank you so very much, June, for sending those to me. And I'm not doing a giveaway in today's video, but down the road I will. And I will use some of those for that future giveaway. One last thing I want to talk about today is an upcoming start that I will be doing on Leap Day. I've never done a Leap Day start, so I'm really looking forward to doing it. But a lot of times what stitchers will do is on Leap Day, they will pick a humongous project and they'll start it on Leap Day and then give themselves 4 years to complete the project. And I've always thought it was really fun. Usually for me, I forget all about it until the day of. But then on Leap Day, when people are showing their starts, and there's always that festive, startitis atmosphere of seeing all of the beautiful projects that stitchers are planning on working on over the next 4 years. I always kick myself for not doing it. So on this particular Friday night, when I was Zooming with a group of friends, they were talking about a Leap Day start and having it be a giant BAP, which is called a Big Ass Project. Sorry, Grammy. But starting this humongous sampler, or not the same sampler, but everybody starting, a sampler that's humongous that they've wanted to work on forever. So For me, the biggest one that I already had going was Mary Bars, but Yvette and I have decided that when Sarah Stewart Hardman is done, that's what will take its place. So we didn't want to work on that one. And so I think it was Yvette that reminded me that I have the chart for it, and it is Heartstring Samplery, His Eye on the Sparrow. So she reminded me that I had this chart and that this would be a perfect one to do as a leap day start. I've had this chart for a while, and it's one that I had hoped that I would stitch before I die. So when she suggested it, I jumped at it. So this sampler, the stitch count is 435 by 363, and the original was stitched on a piece of 28 count doubloon, which is a massive piece of linen that you would need to stitch it on. I don't have that kind of real estate here in my house, so I needed to definitely go with a higher count linen. So I decided to go with a piece of 40 count. So the one hang up I had was I would need to get a piece of linen that was big enough. And so Christine from Hollis Hands Creates, she is in that Zoom meeting, and she told me that in the morning she would send me some photos of some possible ideas, or, you know, she would send me the photos, I'd look at it, and then I'd pick which piece of linen that I wanted to purchase. So originally I was going to go with Affogato, but about the time I said Affogato, it sold out. So then I was going to go with a 40 count Legacy. And then she said, I have one more that I want to show you. And it was a piece of 40 count, One More Reproduction by BeStitchMe. And when I saw it next to the 40 count Legacy, I knew that was the one I was going to stitch, His Eye on the Sparrow. So this is obviously folded in half, but this is what the linen looks like. It is absolutely gorgeous. And Christine always you can order, and it, like, the shipping is amazing. It comes so fast. So I was so super happy that she, you know, gave me some ideas, and then she shipped it out within a few days, and then I got it like right away. I was very happy. So this is what I will stitch His Eye on the Sparrow on. And I had about half the threads and was able to pick up the other half from Christine as well. So it's just a very beautiful sort of earth tone palette. I think it's going to look amazing on the linen. And I am really, really, really excited to start. So I can't wait. It's going to be a fun project. And Michelle from Cozy Egg, she has quite a bit done on her Eye on the Sparrow, but I told her that we were going to have to stitch it together. I have a long ways to go before. She'll be finished long before I am, but at least I'll have a stitching buddy to work on it with. So really excited to start. I'm also excited to see what everybody else is going to be starting on February 29th. There was also something else that we talked about doing over the next 4 years. So I will, once I sort of figure it out, then I'll talk about it in my next video. But I'm excited to start. I'm excited to start His Eye on the Sparrow. It's one, you know, I've looked at it so many times. I've seen it finished so many times, and it's just such a lovely piece. And I can't wait to start working on it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's going to be my 4-year project. So I will start it on Leap Day 2024 and have it done by Leap Day 2028, which I will be in my 50s then. So good times. Well, I think that brings me to the end of today's video. I'm not sure how long the video itself will be. I have a feeling it'll be a little bit on the shorter side. I feel bad that I don't have any quilting, but you have to be home to work on that kind of stuff, and I've been away a lot. So next time, hopefully I'll have some stuff to show and talk about, and more progress to show and talk about. So, but anyway, if you've stuck around for this length of time, thank you so very much. I do plan on being back in 2 weeks, which I believe brings us to the beginning of March, which I cannot believe. So I hope the rest of February goes well for you. Here in our neck of the woods, spring is definitely springing. A lot of stuff is waking up and coming up out of the ground, and it's exciting to see. I'm just hoping that we don't get any sort of like frozen event, because with all of those tender young buds and leaves and stuff, it would definitely damage them. So I'm hoping that our spring-like weather will continue. But yeah, spring is springing. I think there was one day a couple weeks ago where I was actually outside in a t-shirt with Freddie walking. It was very strange. But I hope the rest of February is a good one for you. If you would like to see what I'm up to in between my videos, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page called Pumpkin Hollow Quilting, and I will put a link to both of those places down below, as well as in the description box. Everything I have shown and shared in today's video will be listed down below, on the off chance that I've accidentally said the wrong count of linen or linen name, or who knows, but all of the correct information will be listed down below. I thank you so very much for stopping by today. If you're brand new to the channel and you liked what you saw, I hope you will hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, I will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.